All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Midweek Gaming. I'm Nick, and on the side of the comms, of course, Justin providing audio commentary and his own brand of gameplay. So, Destiny, back again. Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, Bungie. Why do you do these things? So, Bungie recently released they released a bunch of stuff. They released dev insights related to ability tuning. We'll cover that. They released exotic stuff. Not going to cover that. They released two parts of a single Vidoc. We'll kind of cover that. And we'll kind of use that to swing back into another point, which is Bungie's response to 0 hour difficulty and how this is concerning, if you ask me, take on what current Bungie's mentality is. But we'll get into that. So first things first, the Vidoc related to, or not the Vidoc, the TWIB, still like TWAB better, about final shape abilities and tuning. There's a whole bunch of stuff they put in here. It's a pretty extensive list of changes between arcs, strand, and stasis is actually getting its big rework tuning. So stasis may be good now for
Stasis
some
is
people.
getting a buff?
They're
What?
getting a new keyword,
What?
frost armor. So
I mean,
apparently
technically,
you're
Frost Armor has existed for a while. With
it's
one of,
overshield.
yeah, it
So
was an overshield, but it's its own armor type thing, very similar to Strand now.
yeah, which I feel like that just kind of makes it double up on the thing. Maybe they're just gonna do
Mm,
this with all the future darkness subclasses. The one future darkness subclass that I still think is coming at some point, but we'll see. But so yeah, Strand might be decent now. They gave a increased
Strand,
shatter damage, so no stasis,
Stasis.
stasis might be good now. Yeah, you called me out on it. Stasis might be good now for some people because stasis was for the long. Like stasis was really powerful when it first came out. I still remember freezing and screwing over Titans so hard in the Crucible when they would just run at you with their arc super, and then you just freeze them, and that would be the end of it. It was all so funny, but stasis got tuned back way, 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 quite a bit to the point where it's now like it's not bad, but it's but now it might be good again. And shatter damage got a boost, so the Warlock super also kind of unintentionally got a buff there because we also rely on shatter damage for our super. Well, unless you're kind of spamming it, in which case you can just use your pulses. But anyways, no, even then. But anyways, so that's stasis. I won't go too much into Void, into Strand, into Arc because that's all a bunch of nitty gritty you can read. It's a bit of back and forth. I will focus on Void or Solar though for one particular thing, and that's the big hot point of this article because oh boy, they talked
People
on the
are very unhappy with these change.
well, depending on who you ask, but we'll get into
Yes.
that. Well of Radiance and the Word of Dawn. For those who don't know, we've all kind of known a nerf was coming at some point. But I don't know if anyone predicted it being this hard or this much or anything. Because what Bungie did kind of turned well from useful to useless. We'll cover why. So, basically, shit, the article I had just closed on me. Basically, what they did is they basically took Well and they were like, okay, so the power fantasy of Well is it's this empowering healing rift, right? So, new plan, we're gonna do none of that. Um, well, they're making the more empowering rift. Healing rift is, boy. I'll just read over the changes and we'll discuss them after. So, Well of Radiance. It now grants Radiance for 8 seconds when players exit the Well of Radiance, so not bad by itself. And then you keep reading. Reduced player survivability while standing in the Well of Radiance area. Reduced healing per second from 100 to 50 points, matching restoration times 2. Why can I get the same thing from a grenade I can get from a super? Cover that too. Increased healing on cast from 40 to 300. In fact, Cross made an interesting comparison saying this might now be a panic super, which really feels like that shouldn't be what Well is.
Yeah,
I have an exotic helmet for that on a Warlock.
yeah, that's the thing when it comes to Well. Well is a super that you put into one singular area and it lasts a while. Therefore, it is not a panic super.
It shouldn't be a panic super.
It really shouldn't. Nova Bomb seems like a good panic super, but
Eh, but it's not done there, dear friends. No, no, no.
no.
We have more. Reduce damage resistance versus non-boss combatants, so anything that isn't a yellow bar, from 40 to 20. It's still not done. Reduces damage versus actual boss combatants. So, you know, the big dudes with the yellow on their health bar. From 40 to 10. Note, damage resistance versus enemy players is still unchanged, so this doesn't affect the Crucible. Oh, and just to be kind, they're giving us an extra ability to produce instead of 4 orbs of power while killing enemies within the well to 5. Yay. Not sure if that's gonna do flip all, but whatever.
There you
They
go.
claim to know what they're doing. Claim being the operative word. So yeah, well is now dead because, yes, they are making it so that, you know, you can now have radiance for 8 seconds outside the well, which is nice, I guess. But in terms of actual survivability, it's tanked hard. Here's the problem, though, right? That's kind of the whole thing for well. Well is 2 things, survivability and damage. And before we get down into the Ward of Dawn section, because they nerfed Ward of Dawn too, and I feel bad for the Titans for this one, but again, we'll cover that. To my fellow Warlocks out there, because I've been Warlock maining since D1 beta, I have the authority to say this. To those few in the crowd who are saying, yay, I'm free from well now, no you're not, because, well, my friend, is used for damage buff, and forgive me if I sound a bit annoyed here, because I am, but, it's used for damage. Its primary use is damage. So for those who are sitting there going, "Yay, I'm free from using well," no, you're not, because it's not had its damage decreased. In fact, it's leaned heavily more into damage, slightly more, because now it gives Well of Radiance when you leave the well too for 8 seconds. So people are still going to be asking you to do it. Only this time they'll have to bring a Titan bubble along too, but we'll get to that. So yeah. To those who are sitting there in the crowd saying, "Yay, I'm free," no, you're not. First off,
Not how
I
it
have to clarify
works.
that.
That's not how
That's
this
not how that
relationship
works.
works.
That's not how your relationship works, friend. But but the well by itself is effectively useless, though, because, like I said, good luck surviving now in the well. Because the reason it had such high survivability, Bungie, FYI, was because you're basically telling people to stand in the well and shoot.
Yep.
You have to stand in the well in order to get the buff. Granted, this new set allows you to get it for 8 seconds outside, but in fairness, they kind of had to do that because otherwise there'd be literally no point to using this well anymore because, well, you'd die the minute you tried to use it because everyone would wipe. I've been hearing a lot of people in the comments section, Crota now is going to be an absolute impossibility because even with the well, as it is now in Master, you still get wiped. Like, a lot of people are pointing out, you still get wiped easily on Master raids, or Legend raids, or whatever the upper tier of the raid is, when you're using the well. You can still easily get killed in that. And now, you're gonna even more easily get killed. So I don't know what Bungie's smoking over there, but it must be some pretty good stuff. But anyways, so the bubble. Oh, we're not done yet.
Yeah,
So Ward of Dawn, right?
let's go over
Bungie's...
to Titan's
Yeah,
the other spectrum of it, which was originally damage and resilience.
yes, as a man, like I said, as a hardcore Warlock main, I can't speak to the Titans, but I can say I pity you. I'm so sorry, my Titan brothers. But, so basically, while they basically decided to take well and make it more offensive focused, they decided to take bubble and make it more defensive focused. How are they going to do that? Well, simple. They're going to make Ward of Dawn. So armor of light, right? Yeah, that's gone. Your armor of light overshield now immediately applies a full void overshield to the caster and its allies in its dome. So it's kind of tweaked how it works, but we'll get to the worst art later on. Armor of Light now instead grants additional damage resistance to players inside the well by 30% versus enemies, and 60% versus combatants. Enemy players, my mistake. Enemy players by an extra 30, and everything else by an extra 60. So, more defense, not bad, not bad, not bad. Effective health of players inside the Ward of Dawn dome remains roughly the same as it was before versus PvE combatants. So, you don't have to redo your math. And, me see. Oh yeah, effective health inside the ward is significantly lowered, however, than it was before versus other players in PvP. So good luck starting to use it for PvP, I guess. I don't know. And however, it can be increased by stacking bastion barricades inside the ward to gain additional overshield layers. I'm not sure how that's going to play out in practice. Like I said, I'm not in Titans, so Titans, you can comment on that. Allies near the Ward of Dawn now have the Void Overshield, trickling over to them, however, similar to the volume behind a Bastion barricade. So now you don't actually have to be inside the ward to get the Void Overshield. It can kind of slowly trickle to you over time outside the well, or outside the bubble. But oh boy, here's where everyone's going to get pissed off. Your Weapons of Light, yeah, that's gone. This
Yep.
behavior has now been moved to the Helm of Saint 14. So if you want the damage buff, my Titans, you're gonna have to run the Helm of Saint 14. I've been hearing some Titans claim that this now gives the Helm of Saint 14 a use, because apparently it was useless before.
Yeah, but mind you, this also goes and makes it so that we have now another exotic armor piece that has to be used in a raid in order to optimize a very specific thing that people would want.
Yes, that's the thing, right? If you're gonna run Legend raids, if you're gonna run competition mode for the new Witness raid when that comes out in less than 2 weeks now,
Yes.
you're gonna need to run this. Like, here's the thing, right? And I've been hearing exactly what you said, Justin, in a lot of comment sections from Titans as well. This is gonna basically mean that if you want to run high difficulty raids, you're gonna need to spec into this. Basically, all everyone's thinking here is this is gonna bring the bubble well combo back in force, because now you're gonna have a well in front of a bubble and maybe have the bubble like slightly over the well so people can like come back and forth inside the well, or maybe they'll use like maybe Bungie's thinking that if they
I
use
mean,
the like low tick of the bubble, people can like get the bubble nerf outside in the well. I don't know, but that really crimples the damage phase. All I'm gonna say,
yeah. Like
because now
there
you got two.
was a good time, and I'm pretty sure you might remember this from the time that
Mm,
we did a raid together.
mm.
There would be a bubble and a well used simultaneously with one another, and they basically they had the well in front of the bubble, and we used the bubble to get a damage boost and the well to stay alive.
Pretty
That kind
much.
of works, but that's the thing. Like back then, it was basically well and bubble had their own niche uses. Both of them kind of kept you alive to the same degree, but one healed you more than the other, and the other gave you more damage. So like both had their own kind of niche use. Now there could be an argument that maybe if you lowered the overall health for each and then maybe made bubble go and heal you slower but give you a higher resilience, and well heal you faster but give you a lower resilience, you could maybe balance it that way. But instead we have this alternate reality, which is our current reality.
That's the thing, right? With the way things currently stand, well is now effectively useless by itself, because good luck surviving in the well on any form of difficult content without the use of a bubble, because you can't.
It's
Because,
not
like I
going to be
said, you can
easy,
still
no.
get killed in the well already, and this is going to make it even worse. In fact, I'm partially wondering if the Riven Cheese can even now still be done with just a well, because the well now
Probably
does.
not, because here's the big thing: is the fact that both Bubble and Well, I'm pretty sure Bubble was included. Both like major bosses and minor bosses have had their overall damage to the player like nerfed. So players had a resilience to those two types of bosses with at least Well, and that's been nerfed, making it so that the player will now take more damage.
Yeah, you went from like
So
40-person bosses to 10, which I'm already hearing a lot of comments in comment sections being like, "Oh, I can't wait for the day one clears." But everyone wipes in a well because Bungie
the
apparently
well
like,
is now basically useless.
yeah, you need a bubble to do this. Which, yeah, you could say, well, just run bubble and well, and yeah, that's fine. But that means now you've got to have two people you're relying on for a damage phase instead of just one, which not only complicates things, it kind of also hurts your damage phase, because now you can do even less damage overall, because those two now have to rely primarily on weapon damage, which, yeah, weapon damage
Like
is good, but this isn't Warframe. Weapons cannot overshadow your abilities. Abilities have always been better than weapons in terms of single-use damage output, and now and what in the case of a Titan who can do 500,000 damage per a good super, yeah, that's gone.
Yeah,
And
like
now,
that's the thing. They basically are forcing players to now go down the route that people used to kind of do, which was have two support supers. And two support supers are useful in some regards, but in this case, it's a necessity. It's not a this is useful because it goes and boosts our passive damage, which is from our weapons, which was what it was before. This is a this is a necessity if we want to survive and get a little extra damage on top of it.
yeah, so like again, there's a lot of people who are saying, what's the point of even bringing a warlock on a raid team nowadays when apparently the bubble can do everything the well can now, just without the extra fuss and muss, just wear the bloody helm of Saint 14. So, which is a good segment into the next point, where Bungie seems to be hell bent on making this game to the point where it's basically Dark Souls version 2.
Yes.
So, Bungie released an interesting Vidoc, both yesterday and today. It's two parts of one. The Vidoc itself isn't actually too bad. It releases some very interesting stuff. Apparently, they showed us that um, the dread enemies apparently have their own language that's actually translatable. So, for any linguistics fans out there, have fun with that. I'm sure Bife is already salivating at the thought of translating. What are they calling that language? Pyramidian? I guess that works. I guess that works. But anyways, what I really want to focus on is one particular dev in the stream. I don't remember her name. Forgive me. I'm not going to call her out specifically for naming, but I feel like this shows a very interesting position at Bungie. Actually, no. We'll save the. Let's actually shelve the Vidoc for a second, and let's go over to. But let's give this some extra clarity before we go into the Vidoc, because recently Outbreak Prime released. You're probably thinking, well, that's a big jump. Well, don't worry, it'll make sense in a second. So Outbreak Perfected, or yeah, Outbreak Perfected. Outbreak Prime is the original. Outbreak Perfected's new reprised craftable mission released last week, I think. Last week or the week before.
I think it was the week before.
No, it may have been the week before. But
Yeah.
anyways, so the mission released, right? Everyone was like, "Yay, we get Outbreak Perfected back," and it's not a bad gun. Not gonna lie, it's decent for everything across the board, be it PE or PvP. Not great in anything particularly, but it's well-rounded in all things. So it's a pretty jack of all trades weapon. So it's a pretty decent exotic, all things considered. And craftability makes it even better. So yay. Only problem is the mission. So, yeah. For starter, for a bit of extra clarity, Whisper mission when that came out was listed at, I think it was 1810 base, and the weapon and the enemies did actually feel 1810. I think I managed to solo that mission by myself, the base version. Did the legend? It was decent. Not well. Anyways, but I managed to do both the legend and the basic. The basic I soloed. But when it comes to the Outbreak mission, I'm like, okay, they were both hard. Let's see how hard the Outbreak mission is. Yeah, way harder. Because, fun fact, Bungie lies to you, first off. Because the mission, when you go into basic Outbreak, you probably heard it all over the place if you've been following this, but just for the sake of rehashing it, Outbreak states that it's recommended for 1810. Fun fact, that's a lie, because all the enemies are actually cracked up to 1830. So they're going to be hitting you with 1830 damage, which means if you're 1810, oh, you're not going to have a good time. And this has resulted in a bit of an issue where Bungie has been basically told, I think on their forums, that basically, it's too hard because, I'm going in as 1810 and I'm getting my butt handed to me. Again, not surprising, you're 20 power levels under. Yes, the timer is 40 minutes, but you're going to need at least 5 of them to clear an area and not immediately die, so... And then there's the big boss at the end, which, Bungie being Bungie, if I may just go on a small tangent here, decided to just go completely uncanonical and put House of Salvation dregs next to regular dregs, despite the fact House of Salvation didn't technically exist at the time of this mission for another 2 years. Yes, I'm being petty about this! They even have bloody tanks with House Salvation logos on it, Bungie. How do you screw up this badly? This is, how do you
Why
not
do you
like?
do this?
And you're probably thinking, well, they put the Briggs there, for example, to challenge you. And Briggs also didn't come till Beyond Light when House Salvation came in. Yes, that's fine and all. But they literally have tank models in the game that are just basic tank models, not House Salvation tank models, and dregs that are just basic dregs. And yet they put House Salvation tanks into a mission that they weren't there originally, as well as the dregs and vandals and whatnot that weren't there originally. So they chose to do this. Bungie, how am I supposed to believe you can tell a competent story when you can't even get your own chronology right? Hey. Anyways, tangent over. I'm a warlock. I'm a lore nerd. I can do this.
I'm allowed to do this.
I'm allowed to do this. But
You
anyways,
cannot
so
stop me.
Bungie basically had an article, or Bungie basically was told, hey, it's difficult because I'm 1810 and I'm having my butt handed to me. Again, understandable. You're 20 levels under. And Bungie responded. What did they say? They said, and I quote, it was never meant to be easy. And effectively, that it's supposed to be that way. It's supposed to be that way, you say. So you're lying, is what you're telling me, because I don't know. Like, here's the thing, right? Can a fire team filled with 1810s do this mission? Sure, they could. Would they? Probably not, but they could. Like, here's the thing. I did this mission. I have done the basic version. I have not finished the legend version yet. But I think Justin just walked off to do something. So I'll just carry on. But I did this mission as an 1810 or as an 1830. Me, I did Outbreak Perfected's new mission as an 1830 by myself, mind you. So, and I was barely able to manage to do it by myself as an 1830, and I only managed to finish it with like 1 second left, and I was down to the wire, legitimately. Had I been even a microsecond off, that'd have been it for me. And I was 1830, so you know. Can an 1810 do this mission? I didn't be able to do it. I'm an 1830, so I don't know. Maybe, but they have to be absolutely cracked. So I don't know. Again, this feels like it was very much a mission designed for a full fire team. That yeah, they didn't really tell anyone. And again, I don't see why they say this is recommended 1810 because I genuinely wouldn't. The bosses are set to 1830. So you're probably thinking, well, you know, if you haven't been following, you might be thinking, what's the difference then between Legend and Basic? Because Legend is generally harder enemies. The only difference between Legend and Basic in this particular instance is one thing, and that is you have less time. You have half the time you do in Legend or Basic. Basic, you have 40 minutes. Legend, you have 20. You're gonna need a full fire team for Legend. Just telling you now, and that as an 1830 player. So if you're an 1810. Don't even try. Like, if you don't have a full fire team, don't even attempt Legend. Like, attempting to complete it. You can try, don't get me wrong, but I wouldn't recommend it. So, why am I bringing all this up? Well, it kind of goes into another topic of the previous mentioning I was talking about before about the Vidoc. So, as I said before, Bungie released a two-part Vidoc, the part 2 of which released today. And in that Vidoc, there was one particular developer who I think was a designer of some sort. Forgive me, I don't remember the actual title here. Let me look that up right now, actually, while I have a few seconds. And this might seem... I mean, I might as well, for the sake of discussion, if we're going to have this discussion. Let me just turn down my other screen here so you don't hear it. It was around here? Here we go. I think it was around here. Forgive me, I should have all this stuff written down in advance, but we do this on the fly, so... I do this stuff off the cuff, so some people might say, well, get a script. Get a script, it's good for you. I mean, I decided to do without because I think that adds authenticity. Yes, I'm killing time here till I can actually find her name card come up. Oh dear, 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 dear. Enjoyed Justin's gameplay while I sift through this. It should not be taking me so long, but Here we go.
Sometimes I forget how pleasant it is. The
Okay,
quiet
she's a
after
test lead.
battle.
All that for a test lead. Oh, but anyway, not to shortchange her. But anyways, so she's a test lead, right?
Reason to enjoy it
And
while it
she basically
lasts.
states, while she's right next to another fellow who himself is a senior designer. And this part in the video is where they're talking about the new strike coming in final shape, and it's apparently this cool looking strike that's designed on possibly the witness's own memories on its own civilization's architecture and yada yada. It's a nice looking strike, not gonna lie. It's a pretty cool looking strike, real ancient city vibe, which is what they're going for. What bothers me most isn't actually what she says, but that it is a precedent, I think, of what's currently going on at Bungie here. And that is, she basically states halfway through this that she has, I think, what, 7 Conqueror seals. And for those who don't know, basically Conqueror requires you to run GMs out the butt. And you need to be really good at them. So to anyone who can get even one, well done. GMs are not easy. I ran one once way back as Season Rivals, never again. I finished it, but again, never again.
I will not be doing this again. Period.
If I ever do it, I must be completely insane. But anyways, she basically states that she wants this to be the hardest strike ever, and she wants people to literally sit there and cry and be like, "How am I going to do this on Grandmaster?" And that itself wouldn't be too, I'd be like, well, she's a person who wants to get a hard strike. That's fine, that's fine. But I think by itself that would be fine, except we have all this precedent stuff that I've said before you, the Outbreak Perfected comment, the whole business with supers being kind of completely wrecked in terms of which makes bosses way harder, especially because that now means that all the previous raids that were, again, designed around these mechanics now might not function as well, if at all. Like I said, people are already saying Crota might be borderline impossible at this point. It kind of all feeds into this main point I'm trying to make here, is that this kind of shows a precedent that's being set at Bungie here, where harder equals better. Just flat out across the board. And I want to say nope. Because here's the thing, right? Don't get me wrong. I play Destiny a lot. Justin can vouch for that.
Yes.
But just look at my,
It's
well,
it's one
Steam
of the
doesn't show much
very
for hours.
first games that I saw him playing while we were at college. I remember distinctly you were playing a Crucible match, and in one of your lives on the match, I decided, hey, I want to try it out, and I threw a grenade, and that was about it.
Yeah, that was what, 4 years ago at this point.
Around.
But yeah, so I've been doing this for a long time. My Steam hours show like just under 1,000, which doesn't sound like much to Steam hardcore vets, but know that that was my secondary platform. I play primarily on my PlayStation. I've been playing on PlayStation since D1. So that would be where you'd see the full extent of my hours, which I think are like 4,000 hours, 5,000 hours, something like that. Actually, I don't know, maybe 6,000 hours. I'll have to check, but it's a lot of thousands. I'll just say that much. So I can consider myself a hardcore D vet. But here's the thing, right? Not everyone is a hardcore Destiny veteran who sniffs this game on a daily basis. That sounds wrong, but you get what I mean. The point here is that having content that is challenging isn't a bad thing. Like, I wasn't against the whole bringing strikes up to power level. So, strikes actually are not a challenge, but, they'd actually feel like you have to focus somewhat instead of just point and shoot, which, yeah, I was fine for. But when you have stuff like this, when you have stuff like you make a reprised exotic mission and you put it 20 levels under on the recommended power cap, and then people come to you and say it's difficult, and you basically just tell them in a kind way, effectively, get good. Yeah, that's not a good thing, because it really doesn't.
It
Not
doesn't
everyone is a
encourage
hardcore
getting
veteran.
good. It encourages players to not bother trying because you've just basically told the casual player base, get lost.
Pretty much, yeah. Like, in the most blunt way, yeah, pretty much. You're basically telling casuals, get lost, because if I'm not, like, I literally told you earlier on, to do Legend Outbreak, you are going to have to do a full team of 3. You have to do it. And I am an 1830 telling you that. So, do you want to run this 1810? I guess you can try, but again, I don't know how far you'd get.
Yeah,
So,
I'll say this for anyone who knows. Literally, Gary's Mod roleplay servers, people who admin on those servers joke around about how it's basically the G job. It's your Gary's Mod G job type thing. It's basically the kind of thing that they're going for in Destiny now. It's like you've got your Destiny job. You've got your real life job where you earn money, and then you've got your Destiny job, the job that you have to go to every day. Otherwise, you're going to fall behind.
and honestly, like, here's the thing, right? When I look back at what they're doing, right? Because what else is coming in the final shape is also power level increase. So people are going to be brought up to the power level, I think, like at level or like 5 under of the strongest person on the fire team. So in doing so, they're going to make it so that, you know, you don't have to, it'll be a lot less hard for people to run like raids and these kinds of missions because the strongest person on the team will just bring everyone up. So you're not going to have it so that you're running a, in this case, again, 1830 strike or mission, I should suppose is the proper word, a 1830 mission with people who are like 1810, 1825, you know, stuff like that. 25 ain't that bad, but again, you know, or like 1820s. I mean, you're not going to run it with people like 1820, 1818. You're bringing them up so they're at least around your power level, so they're not going to get their butt absolutely handed to them. Because otherwise, yeah, they're not going to be able to play it. Because again, it's slowly turning into this. I think like everyone it seems in Destiny space is like, yeah, well done, Bungie, make it harder, make it harder, and I mean, the whole business with the well, everyone kind of blames Salt Combo for that. I'm not sure if that's true or not, but I've read that comment. I didn't agree with most of it, 90% of it actually. But anyways, that's a side note. My point is that, you know, it almost feels like you have to do this now because with the way content is designed, you can't really play with anyone that's under level because unless you've got that one person, because it feels like nowadays with the difficulty of content that in some cases you kind of have to have high people carry you. You kind of have to. I mean, I was talking with Justin about another mission that came out ironically also this year, which was the Excalibur mission. I've been running the Brachion Legend mission. I've already finished the basic back when it first released, and now I just run the Legend. I've run it twice now, and yesterday was my second attempt. And I finished it, so now I just do it once more for the actual for the achievement for that. And I'm doing it primarily for the Ghost Shell, not the actual Excalibur augments. It's a nice glaive, but whatever. I want the lore, but my point here is that like it really feels like it's something that you have to run with people that are decent level and know what they're doing because I run the mission many times, not just the 2 times I finished it on Legend, but many times before as well, with people that are either not that competent or not that powerful or whatever. And it, you know, once you get to like the second part where you're sitting there and you're basically told bank all these data bits and sit in this hole while wyverns shoot down at you basically a fish in a barrel style with guns that are basically wide area coverage and do metric flip tons of area effect damage because on Legend they hurt like heck. Yeah, it's extremely difficult unless you have someone who knows what they're doing. You are going to get absolutely stonewalled right there. And that is not even the final boss. That is the second boss. The final boss is after him. So, you know, it feels like there's this precedent right now in Destiny where unless you're really good or really powerful, you won't be able to play some content on higher difficulties. Not even the highest difficulty, but any higher difficulty, right? Like, this is the Legend version of a mission that only has basic and Legend. So, fine. I'm not sure how that's going to translate into strikes. I don't play strikes beyond the matchmake, or the Nightfall strikes beyond the matchmake hero difficulty, which is now the base difficulty these days. So I'm not sure how those are playing out in hard mode. Like I said, I'll never touch a GM again. So it's kind of that position where I will hopefully not touch a GM again. Maybe I will just to punish myself. But My point here is that there's this precedent that the game is getting harder and harder, and unless you're stronger or know what you're doing, you're just not going to be able to play in higher difficulties. And for the elitists out there who are like Guardian rank 11 or 10, I see you running around the tower. Yeah, that might be fine for them, but for everyone else,
Not
it's
everybody is playing the Destiny job.
yeah, not everyone's playing the Destiny job, which, like I said, is kind of where I go back to that idea of like bringing people up to the power cap. It seemed like a nice thing at the time, and it still is. Don't get me wrong. I'm not bashing it or anything. I just feel like when you take all of what we talked about into consideration, when you take all of this into a single bin and you bring that in, it almost feels like now that's less of a niceness from Bungie and more of a necessity, because I don't know if people will be able to play higher end content with the way the game is going at this point unless you're on the higher level spectrum. And again,
Yeah.
not everyone can grind for 16 hours a day.
So I'll make a quick comparison. World of Warcraft and what is it? The store, like Star Wars online game. Um, Help me
You
out
mean
here.
Star Wars Old Republic?
Yeah,
The Old Republic, yeah.
those two games have a whole bunch of big amount of content. You've got raids, dungeons, stuff like that. But it's not a necessity. And some of it, although is time gated, not all of it is time gated. Now, to be fair though, Destiny is a completely different level when it comes to this, and certain things out of necessity would have to be removed. But there's a big difference between these two games because in both WoW and the Star Wars game, you can go and kind of just casually play it. You can go at it at your own pace. You don't have to go and, you know, seek out the high-end game content. And you don't have to go and maximize, like min-max your character to go and achieve great feats. Let alone, you don't have to min-max just to go and stand a good chance in some of the more regular-based content, i.e. strikes. So, it's, I don't know, it's gonna be really weird and hard to see what's exactly gonna happen with things when it comes down to it, because they're basically gonna make it so like the casual content, the strikes, the base level content that most players will be participating in is something that is going to basically be a, you are needed to go and do higher level content. You need to go and grind out constantly, otherwise you will be left behind.
And again, that's kind of where that whole like raise everyone to the cap comes in, right? So, it is them kind of like almost
They kind
fixing
of
their own
understand
problem
it,
they aren't
but they
addressing.
don't
They
really
won't admit it.
understand why it's a problem.
Well,
Like, they
I
know
think
it's a problem, but they're not really gonna properly fix it.
yeah, they're kind of sitting there going like, we'll do this, but it's them kind of fixing a problem they refuse to address. And don't get me wrong, am I saying that Bungie's going to make it so casuals can't play Destiny? No, you can play the basic stuff and all that. But I don't know if you'll be able to play the harder content with the way things are going, because, like I said, with the power level thing, yeah, you're going to have to bring people up to the power level, so maybe casuals can keep playing. But again, it's the question of, is it feasible? I don't know. And with the way things are going, I don't know. We'll see. I had this idea, and then my brain just blanked. I hate it when it
Something
does that.
didn't click.
Well, anyways, that's kind of where we sit here with everything. It does set a precedent at Bungie. I don't know.
Yeah,
We will see.
it's gonna be one of those circumstances where we're really gonna have to see how it all plays out, because this could either make or break Destiny when it comes to the casual player base.
That's what I was going to say.
And your casual player base is the key to a game's survival. If you don't have like the casual players bringing in money for you, you're gonna be pooched.
I don't know. I don't know if it'll break the game, but it'll certainly impact things. And
Well,
actually reminds me of what I was going to say before, actually.
I'll say this, by break
Hold
I
up,
mean
hold up,
like
hold up, before I
seriously
forget the
change
other thing.
things.
Yeah. But, when it comes to what I was going to say before, I was going to say, one of the things that's being talked about here is that Pantheon, right? With the changes coming to Well, with the changes coming to Bubble, with the changes coming to everything, people are wondering if we're going to be able to do that level of difficulty anymore because of just how things are changing, right? It's the point of like, yeah, Pantheon is fun. I haven't successfully managed to run it yet, but it seems fun from all accounts, and it plays fun enough. But it's the point of like, I don't know if we'll be able to do that level of difficulty content anymore if they ever do, because it just won't be feasible with the current way the sandbox is going. We'll see, but I don't know. Give us your own thoughts and opinions down in the discussion. I think this needs to be addressed regardless because everyone seems to be just willing to just stand up and clap for Bungie, or they're gonna sit there and be like, and just kind of murmur on the sidelines. There's like 5 people that listen to this channel, but I think it nonetheless needs to be addressed regardless. So, but let
I
us know
mean,
down below. What do you think?
big thing, no matter what, people are going to basically say what they feel with their wallets, and if they're not paying, then they've basically spoken.
Well, we'll see. Like I said, I've already seen people cancel their pre-orders because of the well thing, but we'll see how that plays out. But yeah, let us know down in the comments what you think. Do you think this is a good thing? Do you think this is a bad thing? Do you think this will really... Do you think this is setting a precedent for desirable, harder level content? I mean, everything at the end of the day is an opinion, Justin. Come now. But yeah, no, let us know. And if you like this comment, if you like our kind of off-the-cuff content, like, subscribe, you probably heard it all the time. You've been on YouTube for more than 2 seconds, so... But it does help. It does feed the algorithm, and as you can see, we're not that much of a big channel at the time of this recording, so help us get bigger. I'm thank you very much if you are. So, yeah, that's all from us this week. Hope you enjoy. Hope you have a good one. I gotta go and make another phone call now, so I'll let you all go now. Have a good one, everybody. Unless you have some end comments, Justin. I'm just gonna skirt it out.
Enjoy your light falling and rising again.
Have a good one, everybody.